Yes, welcome to the Mate Ready podcast. You're here with Daniel Tyndall and my co-host Adam Glover. How you doing, dude?
Hello, man. It's good to be back. Love these podcasts, and yeah, it's good to hopefully have a really good one today and get some value out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the last episode, you were sort of asking me some really good questions about my past, my past and my path, and what brought me basically here today. And there's a little glimpse of that in the last episode, and I want to do the same and flip it and get the guys to hear more about you. You know, a big part of this work is sharing stories and hearing the experiences of other men, as well as hearing the wisdom gleaned along the way. And so, yeah, that's what it's about. And yeah, I'm excited to hear your story. So
Appreciate that.
let's go for it. So
Let's do.
tell us about what's your upbringing. What's the early years of Adam Glover look like?
Yeah, the early years of me were a bit different. I was born in the southwest of England, in a place called Torquay, obviously quite near you, and I moved around a lot. Did a lot of moving around, and eventually ended up in the Highlands of Scotland. Because just a stone's throw away, in a place called Ullapool. And I moved there when I was about 12, I think. But very much for me, Ullapool was the making of who I am as a man, right? And the person I grew up to be. Like the years before that in England, in the south of England, I was bullied relentlessly. Like my nickname, and you might not be able to tell it now, but my nickname was the Milky Bar Kid, right? Because I just had the big glasses, the bright blonde hair. I've also, had a lot going on with my eyesight, and that's still an issue today in the sense of there was a lot of, as you spoke about, like that kind of playground bullying. I always felt very alone and very like, I never really fit in with the cool crowd and all that sort of stuff. And so I remember one day coming home from school, and it was a Wednesday. It's very vivid in my head. And my dad sat me down. He's like, "Adam, got something to tell you." I was like, "Okay." It's like, "We're moving to the Highlands of Scotland." I was like, "What? Sorry, where, why, how?" And yeah, we moved up to this tiny little village. It's about 65 miles north of Inverness. Incredible. Just think a mixture of Rohan and Gondor from Lord of the Rings. Like that's what it looks like. It's a sea loch town, so the sea comes into it, and there's a ferry port and all that sort of stuff. Full countryside, well, mountains. It wasn't countryside, mountains all surrounding you. Uh, and I went there as one of the only English kids in the village, right? And so there was that element there, and what I had learned in England was well, I have to be defensive. I have to, say how great I am, and that didn't work at all, right? They were like, shut up, you English person. We don't want to listen to you. And then that took me a while to get over that, right? And to make friends. And it was all very difficult and all very new. And so I stayed there for my whole secondary school my whole secondary school, and made some really good, like really, really close friends, people I'm really close with today. And it was definitely the making of my mindset and who I am as a man, because I think now I long for the mountains and I long for that connection to nature. So it definitely comes from there. I mean, I always remember there was, and just to tell a bit of a story, there was a family who lived on the one of the mountain sides, and they had a house. There was a house that came out of the mountain, and it was on struts. And then they built this tree house just above them, which had again struts, and it was all very so. Like house parties for us were not house parties per se. They were, well, a lot of my friends' families were crofters, or what people would call farmers here. So we had house parties in barns. So it was a barn party, or like a tree house party. And such an incredible experience to grow up, and I took it for granted. Of course I did. You know, uh, and yeah, that was kind of like my early years in life of just trying to make my way in this world of trying to fit in, as everybody does, right? Every boy growing up trying to be, oh, look at me, and it kind of all, that's where it all grew to in the Highlands of Scotland for me.
Mm. Amazing. Sounds like an incredible place. And what did you said, that was sort of the making of you and stuff. What did those and as we know in teenage years, especially as a young man trying to find his way of what it means to be a man, how did that influence your concept and your idea of being a man?
Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'd look around at my friends' dads, I'd look at my dad, and I'd see masculine role models. Right? These weren't soft men, right? There were people who grafted like hours and hours of their like just, and there was no like mucking around. There was no like, oh, woe is me. It's like, no, no, I'm going out and I'm working hard. There were trawlers, there were fishermen, there were crofters, there were deer stalkers, all of these like very masculine roles. And that definitely, when I think about it now, and I'm actually only kind of realizing this now, but like that is definitely something when I think about what a man should be, I look at that and I look at strength and I look at power and I look at resilience. It's probably come from there, right? And when I look at my father, and he was 6'6", barrel chested, big arms, his hands dwarfed mine. Even if he was alive today, I still think they would, even if that's just my own memory. And so for me, that kind of shaped what I thought a man should be. And then obviously how I envisaged my life going and the things I was going to do. I always knew I was going to do what I ended up doing, which was join the military. It was very much in that, not, I don't, it's hard, isn't like, oh, I don't mean like that, but like, you had to, that's what a man was. And as I grew up and I grew into that and I saw that and I was like, okay, cool. Like, it kind of shaped my thought process of what a man should be.
Yeah. Yeah, those jobs you listed are, yeah, it hardens you, right? It makes you
Mm.
tough, calloused hands and the sweat of the brow kind of work that is. So yeah. So from sort of growing up in Scotland to joining the military, what was going on there for you in life and how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, I always knew I was going to join the military. I used to steal recruiting books from the library. When I saw my grandparents, they'd give me the little commando comic books, the little A5 ones. I used to collect them, used to draw pictures of tanks. I was obsessed by the movie Where Eagles Dare. It's about the SAS climbing a mountain, and Clint Eastwood was in it. Like, it was cool, and I was like, yeah, that's a hero. That's what I want to be. And so I was obsessed by that, and like I was army daft. Like, and I say that word because that word was said to me by my friends growing up. They're like, Adam, you're army daft. Just you get whatever you get because they're all going offshore, they're going to university. I was like, nah, I'm joining the army. I'm going to join the army. And I think it was more about me wanting to test myself and prove myself to be capable, where I had maybe fallen or not believed in myself up until that point, or many many years afterwards. And it all kind of culminated. Unfortunately, my father passed away about 7 months before I joined the military. I always remember my stepbrother said to me, and these words will stay with me for the rest of my life. And he said, "The day your father dies, is the day you become a man." And I was like, right, okay. And I didn't, as a kid, you don't really pay attention to that. You're like, yeah, whatever. But very much, I felt from that moment, and this sounds really bad. I wasn't, but I felt on my own. I was like, well, there's no one to lean back on. Yes, I've got a family. I've got a mother. I've got brothers and sisters, but my father passed away, and a few months later, I was at basic training. I was 18 and a half when he died. I was 19 when I joined the army. I turned up again. Hadn't learned my lessons. I went into an environment where I thought I had to outwardly project a defensive nature of, oh, look at me, look how strong I am. When deep down inside, I was just a scared little boy, absolutely shitting myself in a world full of men who I thought were all harder than me and all more capable than me. And I very much felt I felt like the whole time I had something to prove. I was never the front runner. I was never the best at anything. I've never been naturally good at anything. Everything I do, I've had to work hard for, and that resonated as I joined the military. And as I joined the military, and I left my friends behind, and they all went off and did their own thing, and that kind of whole relationship change for me, so to speak. Well, I'd moved around loads as a kid before I moved to Scotland. So it's just like putting on another coat, for example. I was just like, well, that's all done now. This is the army. And at the time, Afghanistan was still a raging conflict. And I always knew that, okay, well, pound to pinch of salt, if I pass all of this and I get out of training and become a soldier, probably going to go to Afghanistan at some point, is what it is, right? So you've got to be hardened and got to do whatever they tell me to do, got to shut up and listen and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so I joined the military, and that was kind of that was the beginning of what I believe to be a 15-year-long lesson, from the best way I can put it.
Yeah. And so before we get into that, and as a you're at a pivotal point of being a young man, becoming a man, and yeah, losing your father. How's that?
Huge. I can't understate how much that is an anchor point in my life, and an anchor point of regret. I wasn't ready to listen to him on any stage, regardless of what he could have told me. The cure to cancer wouldn't have mattered. Fortunately, worse, he died of lung cancer. Like he smoked 40 a day, right? Like he was from that era. But it shaped me massively, because I've realised for years and years and years, all I've done is look for a pseudo father figure. I've looked for that kind of rock of bastion of strength that I can lean against and say, help me, support me. He died. I saw him cry once in his life. And he died. Sorry, he cried when he told me that he wasn't going to be able to make my pass out. The proudest I'd ever seen him of me was when I passed selection to join the army. And I got the military police role. At the time, you had to do really well in your selection and really well in your scores and all that sort of stuff. So it was a difficult thing to do. Anyone who was from the military listening to be like, yeah, still a lizard. It was military police. And to see how proud he was of me, that was huge. And so that gave me the resilience. Like, well, nothing's stopping me. Like, nothing will ever stop me. Like, I will do that man proud. And to see him, what he became in the end, a shell of a man, is the best way to put it. Like, it was nothing. Radiotherapy, chemotherapy, the cancer ravaged him. It destroyed his body. It very much left a hole inside me that I searched to fill that void, because I look at it now like anybody who's lost a father. I would give anything to sit down with him and have a brew. And you know what? I wouldn't talk. There'd be nothing I need to say. I say, just talk to me. I'll listen now. I'm ready to listen. And that's kind of. I look throughout the years that one pivotal moment. Arguably the worst day of my life, shaped everything that was to come. Everything.
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that. It's yeah, to go through that at such a young age as well is pretty brutal. So
It's okay.
so you've passed. You're going to basic training with the loss of your father as well, which can't have made that any easier.
No, it wasn't.
To put it lightly. Going into the military, you said it's a 15-year lesson. I've heard we've spoken about some elements, probably just a tiny little fraction of your career, but I know how much you loved that career as well. So tell me about that journey for you through the military.
Yeah. So I served for 15 years. I deployed on operations all over the world. I was very, very fortunate to serve with some of the best soldiers I've ever seen in my life. Like, people who operated at the highest standard, who I was just in awe of. Just like, how are you that good? Like, never missing a beat, always being on it. Like, I just gravitated towards that of wanting to learn and teach me. Like, at times I felt like a golden retriever, just like trying to bounce around and be like, yeah, I'll do whatever, I'll make the brews, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I deployed to Afghanistan, not on a, and this isn't me telling war stories at all, but not on a tour that I would say, from my own personal experience of what I believe to be difficult. Like I did a tour and I did my job, and it was war fighting, and it was, you know, front facing, and I did other jobs within that tour as well. But it was still a challenge, and it was still, at the time I was 21 years old, so still very young, and questioning everything that I was doing in the sense of, am I right? Am I good enough? And I think over what when I look back at the first 5 years of my career, first 5 years of my career, what really gets to me is how, this is going to sound ridiculous, how much I didn't put in the effort to be my absolute best. And I said this to you recently, and I'll say it again because someone else, someone online, and a soldier online said it, and it really resonated with me. I felt like I had a part-time mentality in a full-time profession. And when I think about that, it just fills me with regret of like, oh, if you had known what you know now, how good could you have been? And it's frustrating because obviously that's not the way life works. You learn in linear, right? But I was very fortunate over my career to be put in positions and to be put in jobs that I think were really good and really cool. I had a wide spread of learning and of exposure to different things. I ended up in the close protection side of things, which was again a massive learning curve. And in that unit, I served with the best soldiers I've ever seen, like from all walks of life, different cat badges, and all that. Like they were just out of this world. And so for me, it was a massive privilege to be there. And it was the final part of my career where I was coming to an end, knew I was coming to an end, because I've jumped ahead quite a lot here, but by that point, I've been married for a long time. I've got a 7-year-old little girl, and I've missed half her life because I've been deployed. And one of the most gut-wrenching things that has ever happened is I came back from a deployment and my daughter didn't recognise who I was. And she screamed because she thought I was a scary man. She didn't know who he was. And I was like, that's my flesh and blood. And she doesn't know who I am. I was like, and it was a knife in the heart of like, what am I doing to this little girl? What pain am I causing by not being there? And what am I missing? And so that kind of started the wheels turning, and that happened in 2020, COVID. I was deployed, still deployed again after that, you know. And I look on that career and I don't sit here and go, oh, it's terrible and I shouldn't have done it. No, I loved what I did. I loved being a soldier. It is very much part of who I am, and it will forever be a part of who I am. The one thing I'll say about it all is that if you were to go back and talk to 13-year-old Adam and tell him the career he had, he'd be like, hell yeah. Yeah, you got the comic books, man. You did everything the guys are doing in the comic books. That's cool, you know, and that's great. And it was a chapter of my life where I learned so much, and I've grown into the man I am now. But only now do I feel like I'm starting to play a full-time profession role, where I'm like, okay, I'm on. I know how good I am. I know I can really do this. I know I can push forward, and I'm only learning that now, which is a regret, but also strength at the same time.
At least you're learning it now, brother.
Yeah.
I really like that phrase. I think a lot of people will sit with that and listen and be like, yeah. Because I think it probably speaks to a lot of people. And they may be in a job now where they're like, yeah, I've got a part-time mentality. So that's really interesting. So do you think, so if it wasn't for your family, would you still be in the military, do you think?
I often ask myself that if I hadn't have, quote unquote, settled down and had a child, to me, I felt like the choice was forced upon me to leave. I was in a position where I'd been doing the nutrition stuff alongside my career, and I was enjoying it, and I was making some impact, and I was having a good life. But then a potential deployment came across my desk. That would have been 6 months, nothing, no communication, no way. Like the business would have to shut down, and I was like, do I have another 6 months away from my daughter again at a pivotal time in her life where now she starts to get used to me not being there. And I know, not the father I believe I should be. And then alongside that, well, what do I do about this business building? Where's that land? And I think that if I was hell bent when I first met my now wife on finding connection and love. So I think I would have found it anywhere. Actually, I'm fortunate I found her, right? But I think I would have found it anywhere because I was seeking that connection, and this is actually something that I think a lot of people are afraid to admit about themselves. But for a very long time, I have sought approval. So to me, gaining a woman who then fell in love with you, well, that was the ultimate seal of approval. And I think at the time, I probably would have done so much just to get that, and I wouldn't have cared, because to me it felt like, well, that's what that means. I'm a soldier. I've done the things. This is the thing that there you go. That will complete me as a man, which, as we know, is absolute tosh. To put it in the simplest way possible, because I'm only just learning and I'm only just finding out what I feel that is. And so I could have quite easily, and have seen, if not hundreds of soldiers lean away from their family and lean into the business. Lean into the military. And do you know what? Almost all of them are very angry, depressed, tired men.
See that. Yeah, it may have been unfair for me to ask you that question, so forgive me. But I think the decision you made, obviously we talk a lot about fatherhood and families and the importance of being present, and the importance. I think a lot of men feel that they're not needed and can feel that and get that lone wolf mentality and forget what I call a duty. I think, yeah, yeah, incredible decision. And it sounds like, yeah, those things, we talk about coincidences, and I'd like to call them God incidences. You got your business going well, you're faced with that, and you had to make a decision. It forces your hand. Sometimes we do need that to be like, yeah. And how do you feel about that decision now? Now you've left the military. I know it hasn't been plain sailing, and it still isn't. We know that.
Yeah, I massively underestimated the task ahead of me when I left the military. I've been out of the military now for 14 months, and losing that connection to people I've spent my entire life with, like adult life, right? There are people. There was a mate of mine in my last unit that was there at my first unit, and was there at my second unit. I think he was even there at my third unit. Like I've grown up with him, right? He's seen me be the crazy dude who all we want to do is get drunk and get pissed and play soldiers, to I've fallen in love. I'm getting married. I'm a father. I'm deploying. I'm still a father. And we parted ways. But I've known him forever. I've grown with him, and now I don't see him anymore. And that's a singular example across a spread of people I know that I just don't see, that I've had this connection, this bond with for so long, that I've now lost. And it's difficult to close the chapter when it was such a big part of who you are. I'm aware I look a certain way, right? I'm aware I look a certain way. And interestingly, a lot of soldiers tend to do this, maybe not to the level that I've gone, all right? A friend of mine who's a psychotherapist said that a lot of soldiers do it when they get out to hide who they truly are because they're scared of being judged. He was saying that to try and get me to shave the beard off, but it doesn't make it any less true. And I was like, okay, fair enough, I can understand that. As I look at it now, I'm on this path, and I'm not making the best of it. I don't mean that. I'm seeing the opportunity of what I can build in this life. I'm seeing, in my side of things, there are 3 areas that are really tangible for my own self-development. That's outside of me being a father and a husband, right? 3 areas of my own self-development that I look at it and go, you run this down, you can build a fucking fantastic life. Like, and I'm not talking about, oh, I'll be a millionaire and live in Dubai, because no, thank you, SPF 50 over here, right? What I'm saying is that these three things that I've interestingly somehow stumbled across have given me more enthusiasm, more hope, joy, potential for what's to come. That very quickly, that part-time mentality in a full-time profession can get switched on its head and go, you're full-time all in. You're the guy. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, you know what you're working on. You've cut away all the things that didn't serve you. And now you're entering, hopefully, and I'm gonna say something here, you're like, oh yeah. Now I have the potential to enter my king and sage phase. Now I feel like that's a potential for me to do. And that very is, yeah, I'm excited.
Nice, man. Good reference to the archetypes. We like that.
Yeah.
Love that. I I don't know if you want to share. We'll get into the three things. I really want to know before we get too far past military. How has the military sort of shaped who you are as a man? So I'm really
Mm.
interested by that because I'm sure the military teaches some really great things about being a man, but also some really terrible things about being a man. So I'm really interested to know your experience on how it's forged you.
Yeah, and I think so. Human beings are tribal, and the military, and we have a social hierarchy, right? The military does that to the 10th degree, like to the point of almost it's a caricature. Like, we all wear different coloured hats, and if someone else got a different coloured hat than you, it means he's an idiot. Like, we've all got stripes on our chest with little crowns, and the more means better. Or, oh, maybe you've got a big crown, or I've got a little crown. Like, it's so tribal and in that hierarchical nature that from the outside looking in, people go, "Oh, that's ridiculous. It's bravado, blah blah blah." But actually, what it creates, brotherhood. You grow with a group of people, and obviously it's male and female, but you connect with them, you bond with them, you share your life with them, share those experiences, sometimes in the worst of occasions, sometimes in the best of occasions. What that teaches you is reliability to an entity bigger than yourself, but also it teaches you that you can be an integral part of that team. Yes, I'm a number, I'm a regimental number, but actually, in your small network, that small group of, maybe it's a small man team, like a 5-6 person team that I work towards the end, or maybe it's a platoon of 30 people, whatever. You're all driving towards the same output, the same goal. And as you work together and you grow and you understand each other, you learn so much about that connection and what strengths and weaknesses are. My belief of what the military gave me, a never say die attitude, to be honest. I don't think I'll ever know when I'm beaten. If I'm honest, that's something that's very prevalent to me. Is that, yeah, right? I can fail, I can lose, I can do X, Y, Z. But at the end of it, I tend to the next day swing my legs out of bed and go, yeah, okay, well, that happened and it's in the past now, and now I can just pick myself up. It happens more than I care to admit, right? I'm failing a lot, but that stubborn, no, come on, that stubborn enthusiasm. And this was something that a mentor of mine a long time ago told me. He was a soldier, and he said, "Adam, enthusiasm can make up for any lack of skill." And I've taken that personally because I'm like, yeah, that's my thing now. I mean, I've got skill, but hey, if I just throw myself at it with mass enthusiasm, then I'm good. We look at the military and we look at that tribal nature. We look at that resilience that it teaches you. And I think resilience is forged not only in hardship, but also in shared experience. Because hardship, yeah, great, right? We can all, I could get a group of soldiers in a room and we could all tell stories about how hard our service was, right? It's part and parcel. Like, that's what people do. We're inherently like, oh, I had this, and right, okay, cool. That's great. And I've had conversations with you about the hardship that I've endured in my military career. Now, this isn't that type of podcast, so I'm not going to be like, to use a military saying, pull up a sandbag, guys, let's listen to a war story. Not that I've got many to tell. But that shared adversity, that working together to work through problems, to work through life changes, to whatever, that's a massive piece of the puzzle, especially from a mental aspect. Because you as a man, as a person, understand that you work best when you're interlinked with a, so to speak, a unit. Right? You said it earlier, people have a lone wolf attitude. Yeah, everyone loves the idea of that. But actually the pack together is unbreakable. And I think when you look at that from a military perspective, varying degrees of severity. All right, it's not like every day you're going, okay, the mission is this. We're going to go hit a compound and kill this person. It could be we're gonna do some mandatory training because that's what we've got to do once a year, right? But it's that shared experience together that builds those bonds that I think the military does a very good job of instilling in people.
So sort of taking that with you coming out, what are the three things? Because I think if you want, do you want to share that with?
Yeah, yeah, we'll go for it. Yeah.
I'm just interested in.
Yeah. So the three things that I am throwing myself into with boundless enthusiasm of learning as much as I can and just trying to always be a student and not ever stand myself as a master. Performance nutrition, that's my jam, right? I'm good at it. I love it. I get excited by it. I love showing people what they are capable of in the physical aspect of their lives, both from a training, from a nutritional standpoint. But nutrition is definitely I get so excited about that. Men's work, the brotherhood, Mate Ready Men. That's a piece that, I'll be honest, I say sucker punch. I don't mean it like that, but it massively came in left field and went, light bulb, you're missing this. This is a thing. And all the other avenues that Mate Ready Men and men's work appears to be opening doors to me of areas of my life that I've not shut off. I was like, okay, let's explore that. That's important to me because it gives me an outlet in a world of data that isn't data driven. Like the brotherhood, sharing, being with other men and going, you know what, let's just talk, let's share, like help people, do whatever. Like that gives me so much. Like our in-person event, the first one we ran last year, game changing. And I was just a facilitator. Right? But it left a lasting impact on me. And I said, do you know what? I said this the other day. I was having a conversation on a run with another person, and I was talking about the impact of that in-person retreat. And I said, the drive home from that was 3.5 hours long. Didn't listen to a single thing. Everything was turned off. I just drove and I let my mind wander. I drove on autopilot. Not literally, of course I paid attention to the road, but I drove on autopilot and just absorbed what had happened. And it felt so powerful to me. And it's so tangible. In a year where I felt like I'd lost a massive part of my identity, to then come into this world that I had not no idea of, but like, okay, this is a massive missing piece of the puzzle, and now I see it as integral in my life moving forwards. Like, and I use the word integral in the most cornerstone, foundation, block building thing I can say. Right? That's so powerful because to me, I can be a student in men's work for a very, very long time. And I love the idea that I've got so much to learn. And then the third piece is something that it's so CQB, right? Close quarter battle, shooting, tactics, skills, drills, that sort of stuff. That, if I'm honest, as I said to you earlier about my military career, part-time mentality in a full-time profession. Well, there's an opportunity for me to go and spend some time doing that as much as I want to, and eventually see how I feel about doing some sort of instructing with it if I was interested. I am interested because to me that's a massive part of my life that now I'm out, I only realise how much I miss it. And for me to go and do that stuff, just drilling again and again and again, like it's not flow state, I don't mean it like that, but you just get ear defense on, eye pro on, right, we're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to move for here. It's just, it's repetition, it's training, it's something, and learning, getting better, and practicing, honing craft and honing skills. That's an outlet that I know won't just be contained. And the words I'm about to say, I'll explain so people get what I mean. Won't be just contained to lethality, as in shooting weapons. It'll probably spread over to what has been called and is called currently combatives or unarmed defensive tactics, like fighting, like BJJ, MMA, something like that. Is probably going to spill over into that because I get to be a student. I get to learn. And I've had this conversation with you several times, and I'll say it to people who listen to this. So many people want to jump to being a coach, a master, or a subject matter expert in their thing. But here's a saying in the military that I am trying to carry over into every part of my life, and it's SQUEP. Suitably qualified and experienced personnel. Qualification, great. Baseline, right? Cover off your risk, right? You're qualified, you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Experienced. How often have we seen people who will do one thing for one weekend and go, right, I'm going to go be an instructor in it?
Yeah.
Whoa, sweet child of mine. Let's just go and get some stuff done, right? Like chill your beans, get some experience. And I think for me, especially in the performance nutrition world, right? Yes, I'm qualified and I'm actively working on being more qualified and going for a master's degree, great. But all of this is just me learning, and I'm only 35. I've got a whole lifetime of learning ahead of me, and I'm so excited for it. And all of this is before I even talk about, or it could be a whole other podcast, me as a father and the values and the morals, me as a husband, me as all the other, I look at this now and the passion that I know often exudes out of me, right? Where I talk about stuff and I get excited about it because I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. That is what will enable me to find my true potential, which I think is, especially when we think about brotherhood, men's work, connecting, experience, like spending time with one another, you want to do that with other people. Well, there's no point in doing any of these things by myself on my Todd. Like, last time I checked, a men's circle doesn't work if you're the only man in it. So, it's for me, I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I love it. I think there's a quality that I said to you in a voice note the other week that I really love about you that comes across in most aspects is the enthusiasm, is the positive energy, and I can imagine that was incredibly valued being in very difficult situations in the military, bringing that positive energy. And you said you learnt, the sort of the can do and the resilience of you're never going to be knocked down, that kind of attitude. And yeah, it's infectious as well. And this is, so I love that. And from those three things, I can see that, yeah, that's like purpose, what a purposeful life that's going to be.
Yeah, it's the boundless enthusiasm that I try to bring to every day. Of course, I'm not like obviously I'm not like this every day. There are days where I have ups and downs, like every man, right? I'm not suggesting I'm perfect because I'm definitely not. But I know what it feels like when I'm on the right path. When you know what you're doing is aligned to who you are and the person you're supposed to be, whether that be through some idea you set yourself or what you have a feeling, whether you are religious or whatever it is. But I know when I'm on the right path because I'm doing the thing and I'm like, okay, cool. This is the thing, and it's flowing at this moment. But I also look at how my actions are when it's not flowing. My enthusiasm is great, but what happens when it's not there? What do I do? Because to me, that's also just as important. That's one of the biggest marks of I try in my character and fail regularly is what do I do when discipline is low, when motivation is low, when I can't see a way out, or whatever it may be. Yes, I may swing my legs out of bed the next day and go, come on, let's get after it, Adam. You've got another 24 hours to do your do. But when I'm sat in this chair at 11 o'clock at night, whatever, does that attitude still carry me over? And that's that for me. That's a massively important thing.
Well, I want you to answer those questions and share with us. What does Adam Love do when you're not feeling good on a day?
I've said this countless times to people I've coached over the years. I try to do the next right thing, because if I can do that one right thing, maybe, just maybe, it'll start to snowball. Or I drag myself through treacle every day, so to speak, and it's like, well, I'm still getting there. For example, today, right? And this is such a Billy basic, lowest level I can say this at. I did not want to do the last part of my training session in the gym today because it was hard, right? It was a hard bit that I knew would make my legs hurt. I'd be out of breath. I probably wouldn't be as good as I thought I was going to be. And it would be difficult. It would be a challenge. And it's those moments where I have to rely upon something else other than enthusiasm, other than my boundless golden retriever energy to get me through it. And I often try to remind myself in those moments of just why I'm here. And what I mean by that is, and it's not for me to spin stories, or there have been occasions in my life when maybe things would have gone differently and maybe I wouldn't be here, and that is what it is. But I feel like what I'm doing is I'm chasing after purpose, and I feel actually in the end, even if I step 1 foot forward, at least it's 1 foot further than I went. At least it's a little bit of progress. At least it's something. If it is a terrible day and I'm sat here, I'm like, I ain't got this in me today. At least one little thing is better than nothing. At least, even if it's the tiniest little step. Because how often have you heard this? Right, to everybody listening to the podcast, you can go on Instagram now and you can scroll for 10 minutes to find loads of people gobbing off about discipline's better than motivation, and you just need to do, like, the one I go to, Kung Fu Panda. There is no secret ingredient. There isn't. There isn't a magic thing that everybody else is doing that you're not. There's no secret hack. There's no crazy system that you like, mindset technique. It's just actually, can you put one foot in front of the other until you're like asleep in bed? Can you do that? My whole mindset of, if I can at least make progress on those days where it's hard, well, then that means on the days where it's really good, I'm making shed loads of progress. So even if it's the tiniest amount, I've made something and I've done something and it's okay and it'll be all right.
Yeah.
I don't feel I explained that very well, but we are where we are.
No, I love that. It's important just to keep moving in the right direction. As you say, that next decision. I always feel like, yeah, you do that until the clouds shift, right? Until you feel better, and then you're winning. It's not a struggle to do the stuff that you need to do because you got in your case, the golden retriever energy. I don't think I have that. I admire it from afar. But I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing, mate. What are you working on at this moment in time in terms of who you are as a man? Is there any aspects that you're like, yeah, that's what I'm focusing on?
Yeah, so for me now, as you see, I get very caught up in things, right? And I can very quickly steamroll down paths and jump fast and do all that sort of stuff. I'm trying my best to be intentional. I'm trying my best to, at this point in time, my own mentality is to be present, to be like, right, this is where I am now. This is the sphere of the world I exist in. Be in that moment. Because when I have succeeded in all the areas, when I've done all the things and I'm sat there as a 75-year-old man, or in fact, let's draw back. Say I'm 50, 15 years time, and I've built something. It's big, it's done its thing, and I'm great, and all that good stuff. I'm probably going to yearn for these days where everything was agile and it could switch on a dime and I could do whatever I wanted. And it's like, yeah, this is awesome. So for me now, it's about being present in this moment because I know, and to paraphrase the American Office, when I'm older, I'm gonna these are gonna be the glory days that I tell everybody about because I'm like, oh, this is what happened and this happened and it meant so much and I could do this. These are gonna be the days where I'm like, that was it. I was in the trenches. I was trying. Right now, I'm like, oh, is this ever going to work? Everything's a struggle. Am I trying? Like, oh, I can't do this. Like, but I'm going to look back at it and go, how awesome was that? That journey, that struggle, the stories you tell yourself. Well, it's not the stories you tell yourself. It's the stories you tell everybody else. When I'm a granddad, and they go, "Granddad, tell us about your life," and I'm like, "Yeah, cool. This is it. Like, look at all this," and they go, "Oh, that's really cool." These are the stories I'll tell. Like this time, these moments, and so to be present in this and truly, actually be present, because we spend all of our lives on technology, right? It's such a massive part of our life, and to remove it completely is not possible. However, for me to be present, one of the things I am trying to be is analog, right? As analog as I can be, and I'll show you now. For anyone who listens to the podcast, watch the video on YouTube. But my little Indiana Jones thing, right? Yeah, I love this. It's a little artist roll, and all it's got is 2 notebooks in it. Got one which is the 1% Better Everyday Journal, and one is the Ikigai Journal. I talk about my purpose, and I talk about how I'm moving forward every day.
I love that.
That's it, really. And if I can do that, I'm being present because there's no notifications on this, right? This isn't buzzing off and saying, "Oh, this person sent you a message," which, by the way, really annoys me. Like, for anyone who wants to contact me, just know I have all of my notifications turned off on my phone. unless you're dying, I won't know. But yeah, so being present in the moment,
I love that.
like, because that's where love a quote. Quote Al Pacino. That's what living is. It's the 6 inches in front of your face.
Love that. You do love a quote, and we appreciate it. Present, incredibly important. Something that I think we all probably, well, definitely struggle with, and definitely want to. And as you say, we're going to look back in the future and be like, these are going to be the good old days. And that framing is something I think we could all do with remembering on a daily basis, being grateful. So, dude, it's been great hearing more of your story, and hopefully I know the listeners will have got a lot of value and interest from that. So, just to finish up, what advice would you have given to your younger self?
You are enough. You are enough. And it's okay to want to be better and be the best version of yourself every day. It's okay to chase that growth, the accolades, or not the accolades. It's okay to chase the growth that you're looking for. But if you don't achieve it, that's okay. Because in the end, the only person that matters when it comes to stuff like that is the man in the glass.
I was like, yes, you're gonna say it. Bring on the quote, bring on the poem. Powerful. Thank you, man. And I think we all need to hear that one for sure. And last one, do you have anything for a message for the men listening from?
I do. Without the connection and the brotherhood and sharing with other men, you are not going to become the man you want to be because it comes from shared experience. It comes from being around people who inspire you, you care about, and you want them to do well, regardless of whatever field they are in. So if you're ever thinking about whether you should look at this stuff, I promise you should. I promise you should.
Amazing, dude. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. That's a good one. We've got to do one on fatherhood.
We do.
we're going to do one on fatherhood coming up. But thank you for sharing your story, dude. Really, really appreciate it. And guys who are listening, hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed the last couple of episodes, learning about us a little bit more. Look, if our stories resonate, if you're interested by this work, come and join us. We've got our Make Ready 40 program, which is our 40-day initiatory program. We've got our in-person events this year. Come and sit around the fire with us. Come some combat, some training. Sadly, we won't be playing with guns. Not Adam's area of close quarter combat. We're going to my area. It's a bit
I'm,
safer.
I'm more scared of your area than I am of mine, mate.
Yeah.
Like, you can fold me like a pretzel.
Well. So yeah, come and join us. And if you don't resonate with us and you don't like the look of Make Ready, go find a brotherhood. Go find some other men. Find your tribe. Don't do it alone. It is important that you find your people, and you wolves operate in packs, not alone. Like the lone
There
wolf
you go.
dies. So go find your pack, people. And until next time, keep showing up. Thank you, Adam.